Hey there, it's me Eden. Welcome to Crossdressing Adventure Stories. Today I'm going to share with you crossdressing adventure story called Wife Feminized Ungrateful Husband, Part 1. So, if you're new to the channel, then please consider subscribing and be a part of our inclusive community. Will you please hurry up? We're due at the party in 15 minutes and you've barely got your makeup on, Joe said, somewhat irritated. He'd been a little short-tempered all his 25 years and she still married him, so why develop a bunch of patience now? After all, he was always ready on time, right? All right, Joe, Karen said. Just some blusher and lipstick and we're gone. And a minute later, she was at the door waiting for him to open it for her, which he didn't, as usual, neither the house nor the car. He could stand some lessons in manners, she thought. As she opened the door herself, she said, "Listen, you 5-minute wonder, if you had to go through all I do to get out the door looking nice, I'd be waiting on you." Not a chance, Karen. If I couldn't get it done in half the time, I would go somewhere and take makeup lessons. Oh, would you now?
Yeah,
sure, he said, and they locked the door and left. A lot he knows, she thought. Arrogant twit. Karen and Joe had met at a community picnic a few years ago, dated off and on and then got serious. They got married by a justice of the peace in Santa Rosa, California, north of San Francisco, and were about to celebrate their 3rd wedding anniversary. Karen was a natural redhead which she kept permed in soft curls framing her delicate features and freckles. She looked a little like Kelly LeBrock. She was just a little tall at 5 feet 7 inches, but girls seemed to be getting taller with each generation and she weighed 130 pounds, but there are plenty of girls who towered over her at work where she did volunteer duty at their little library. So it didn't bother her even when she wore her highest heels, which she really didn't mind. Joe was a leg man and said they made her feet look small and pretty and added shape to her already shapely calves even if she did end up a little taller than he was. Joe was only 5 feet 8 inches tall and at 145 pounds and with a moderate build with dark mid-length hair that he kept in a shaggy cut at the neck, keeping it very full. He was always having to brush it out of his eyes as he kept it all about 6 inches long or more all over. She had always thought of him as cute, not in a ruggedly handsome way. He had dark, well-filled-in eyebrows without having them grow together and large deep blue eyes with long black lashes that Karen would dye to have herself. Why did boys always get the pretty lashes anyway, and we had to get them at the store? He has a rather boyish look and smooth complexion and despite being light brunette, had never seen a 5 o'clock shadow in the mirror, although he did shave at least every other day to please Karen since she didn't enjoy stubble when they made love. He had managed to build up a comfortable little computer consulting business and at $50 per hour did well enough that she could stay home and take care of the house and the books for the business. They weren't ready for children and Karen was careful about that as she knew Joe would be upset if they came before he was ready. He wasn't doing quite as well as Tom, the husband of Karen's friend Joyce, but then he hadn't been doing it as long. For some reason, Joe and Karen's relationship had been a little testy lately. Actually, he had been kind of a bear. He, of course, hadn't even noticed it, but Karen certainly had. She had chalked it up to the pressures of the job, but even at that, it was really beginning to get on her nerves, actually more than just beginning. To herself she mused, I just have to find a way to take the pressure off him and get him to mellow out. This is getting out of hand and I'm taking the brunt of it. And what did you mean by that 5-minute wonder bit? He said. Oh, forget it, replied Karen. No, what did you mean? He insisted. All right, it takes you 5 minutes to throw on some clothes or 5 minutes in the sack and you're done. That is what I mean, she replied, a bit annoyed. Holy cow, Karen, that's not fair. I try to control myself, it's just that I get so worked up, I can't. You know what the sight of that bod of yours in sexy lingerie does to me. Well, Karen replied, it wouldn't hurt you to at least try. You're done and I'm still taxiing on the runway, so to speak. You haven't gotten me up far enough to even retract my landing gear in a month. Really? Yes, Joe. I'll bet if it was you in the sexy lingerie, I could control myself. Passing right by the allusion to his wearing sexy lingerie, he said, I'm sorry, honey, rather crushed at not being able to please her. He really did want to please her and this was a slap at his manhood. Not that Joe was all that manly, but he thought of himself that way, as so many do. He was really a bit inconsiderate and did lack some of the social graces preferred in men by their women. Believe me, Karen, if there was anything at all that I could do about that, I would. I really mean it. Anything. Do you really mean that, Joe? She said. Yes, of course I do. I'm not totally selfish like some guys, just a little over-anxious. You know that I want our loving to be satisfying to both of us. No, I didn't, and from the way you've been being rather critical of me lately, I was beginning to think I couldn't do anything right. So, what you're telling me is that you'd really be willing to make some changes, like self-improvement, more foreplay, whatever? Yes, Karen. I really mean it. Okay, Joe, she said, maybe there is something that you can do. I've heard of some herbal remedies and other stuff. I'll look into it for you. Great, Karen. Whatever it is, I'm willing to try anything once if it will make you happy. The next day, after Joyce got off work, she came to visit Karen. They only live a few blocks apart, but didn't seem to get to see one another that often, at least over the last year or so. Karen had been a bit concerned that she had done something to offend her friend, and that might be the reason for their lack of contact. Karen was delighted to see Joyce, invited her in and they sat down over a cup of tea to do some catching up. When that began to wind down, Karen said, Joyce, have I offended you in some way? Why do you ask? She replied. It's just that I don't see much of you and Tom lately. Joyce replied, Oh, Karen, it has nothing to do with you. It is because of something that has nothing at all to do with you. Put your mind at rest. We are still the best of friends. I'm glad to hear that. Maybe you can help me with a problem I'm having with Joe, and like we girls do, she opened up and told Joyce about the problems they have been having in their relationship with Joe's mood swings, which included his performance and lack of consideration in the bedroom. Joyce listened intently and then said, Okay, Karen. I may know a way that you can help Joe with his over-anxiousness and especially with his temperament. definitely his temperament," she added with emphasis and a grin. "That would be a real blessing," said Karen. "How soon can we get started?" Joyce replied, "I roomed with a gal in college who is now an M.D. She has a practice across the bay. Tom and I were having some real problems about a year and a half ago, and she has ironed out the whole problem for both of us, and I know I'll ever have a problem with Tom again. I'll call her when I get home as I don't have her number with me. That's part of the reason you haven't seen Tom and I lately." Joyce offered no further explanation. Karen didn't understand but didn't probe, figuring if Joyce wanted to tell the whole story, she would. "Sounds great, Joyce. Thanks. Well, I guess I should get home and help Tom with the dinner, so I'll call you later, okay?" "Since when did Tom do the cooking at your house?" asked Karen. "You'd be surprised at all the domestic skills he acquired after Barbara got him in therapy, but we can talk about this later. I really have to run.
Bye."
Karen waved through the open door as Joyce pulled away in her red Mustang and wondered what could have had such a profound effect on the Tom she remembered, who was rather a male chauvinist oinker himself. That's all for now. See you in the next video. Please share your valuable opinion in the comment.